Jeff, coach aside, what are the other factors that this exit will be put down to? Some people have said you can look at it as a transitional period for the US. Others have said they've been too egotistical and arrogant coming into this tournament. What will be the factors that will be picked up, coach aside?
Well, I think one of the factors is that some pieces of this roster just did not fit together, I don't think. I think when you look at the front line, there were a lot of redundant parts. I mean, you have Sophia Smith and Trinity Rodman and Alex Morgan, who I think are at their best when they're in the middle, when they're taking up central positions. I don't think Trinity Rodman, who I thought was very good tonight. I just think they're better off in the middle, and so I think from a personnel standpoint, if you're going to play 4-3-3. You've got to have some wingers who are going to be able to deliver service from out wide. And so, I think that's one issue. I think there were issues with the midfield throughout the tournament. And one other kind of ironic thing is Vlatko experimented with the double pivot earlier this year. And, for whatever reason, he decided to kind of not go back to that and persist with Andy Sullivan kind of in a lone holding role. And I think, it was too much for her. I think it was too much for one person not named Julie Ertz, to take on that role. So I think there's some tactical issues just in terms of, how they're going to move forward, the personnel, in the front three and also the personnel in the midfield three. What's the future for Rose Lavelle? She's had some injury issues over the years. I think Lindsay Horan will be back. And also, what did Julie Ertz? I mean, when she was brought into the roster, the thought was that she was going to take on that holding midfield role. And, as it turned out, they needed her in the back. And believe me, I think one of the bright spots coming out of this tournament was that Naomi Girma and Julie Ertz were both fantastic in the middle. Girma in particular, I mean, she's going to be just an absolute building block in that back line for years to come. But, in terms of personnel, I think there are some questions just in terms of how they want to move forward. What kind of style do they really want to try to put out there?
Yeah, so in terms of personnel for you, Sophie, who are the players that you think, okay, the future's a lot brighter? Obviously, Jeff just mentioned a few there, the likes of Girma, Sophia Smith, that the US can now go forward and build this team around.
I think you've got Alyssa Thompson, of course, Trinity Rodman. You've got Ashley Sanchez, who I don't think played at all this tournament, or not much. Didn't play. She was an option. Even if you look at a player like Emily Fox, I think is just a good player moving forward. She's just very dependable in the role. It's just about, I think tonight we saw Alex Morgan stay on when she wasn't really having the best of it, and you've got to just look at phasing out some of maybe the older generation who, yes, they've been there and they've done it, but it's probably time to bring in the new players because, like Naomi Girma was fantastic all tournament. And it's just knowing when you phase that team through. But we know as well, even if you go a little bit further back in the line, there's just players that are always coming through into this system and trying to find that balance. I mean, that's the task of any coach. But I think as Jeff said, there was just a lot of questions. I think we saw Smith move centrally at the end of the game, just looked so much better. And again, you've got Ertz. Why is she playing centre back when if you're playing a lone pivot when that's the Julie Ertz role? So it's just some of it is just really confusing from an outside perspective.
Final thoughts from you, Jules, and who the new favourites should be. Obviously, England were pulling ahead with the odds makers even before this game. What are your thoughts on that aspect?
Yeah, no, I think we mentioned England, didn't we? I was with you on the last show with Mark Ogden, who was like amazed at China, the way they did. And my thought on it. England will be there. I think Japan, of course, after the demolition of Spain and the way they've qualified as well for the quarterfinals, are going to be up there. But like we said, I think especially now that the US are out, this is maybe the most open World Cup that we've seen maybe ever, actually, because a lot of things can win it. I think Spain have a chance. They're my favorite. I think France have a big chance. They're also my favorite. And I think really you go England, you go Japan, and Australia, of course, if they beat Denmark with the momentum they have after the Canada win, if they beat Denmark tomorrow and they're on home soil, obviously it's a huge advantage. So this is wide open. But I do think that this US elimination in a way opens it up even more.
Jeff Carlisle, we know we've got to say goodbye to you, but before you do go, let's have a quick word from you on the aging stars in this team, the players and the legacy that they've left with this US team, and maybe the players that we probably won't be seeing in these major tournaments anymore for the US.
Well, I don't, Megan Rapinoe has already announced her retirement from international and club soccer. The club soccer will happen at the end of the year. So she's out. I thought she was disappointing in this tournament. I thought she struggled with her touches. Even beyond the penalty, everybody can point to that, but I thought her set piece quality was not up to the usual standard that we're expecting from her. So, obviously she will be out. It will be interesting to see what happens with Alex Morgan. The Olympics are next year, so it's not that far away. And so I could see an Alex Morgan perhaps staying on, but I think, her position has to be under threat. I think it was Jules that said, Sophia Smith looked much more comfortable in the middle. And, I agree 100%. I think, Alex Morgan's going to have a lot of stiff competition. And also this team needs to get healthier. They were definitely missing, Mallory Swanson. And, she was a player that they could have used. We'll see what happens with Becky Sauerbrunn. Again, with the Olympics just, less than a year away. We'll see if she stays on. I think they did miss her. I think there were some dominoes that fell in terms of her absence that forced Uswnt to the back. And then that led to some of the problems that we saw in the earlier games in midfield. So, if she's able to come back, I see no reason why she can't play in the Olympics. But obviously, Naomi Girma has done exceptionally well. We'll see what happens with Alana Cook. She was another player who did not get on the field in this tournament. And I think everyone was expecting her to play a much bigger role. So, yeah, we'll see some of these veterans. Like I said, I think Haran will be there. Sauerbrunn maybe, but certainly Megan Rapinoe, and then players like Kelly O'Hara as well. It wouldn't surprise me to see whoever the manager is move on from them.
Jeff, it's been great to have you with us. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to let you go and get some rest now. It's been a long one for you.
All right, thanks very much.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.